Okay.
Okay.
All right, we should be going live here in a second. We're live. All right. Welcome into the Off-Brand Avalanche podcast, post Game 2 versus the Phoenix Coyotes. And this one, much different than the last one. Last time the Avalanche, dominated from start to finish, and this one did not look the same way. The Coyotes absolutely put a fight in this
Well,
one.
I guess I'm a
Marshall, I
little
know
bit
you just got to see
biased
the
here
third
because I thought
period.
we played pretty
Working
well
up
in the third
until
period. I
then, what
thought
did you think of what you
we were
got to
kind of
see?
controlling the pace of play. We had most of the possession that I noticed. I do think that Arizona got a few chances that they could have capitalized on further, but for the most part, I did like the way that the Avs played in the third. I know that the talk around, like, with you and Karim and all the people that were telling me about the game was that it wasn't necessarily like the best game that the Avs played, but that was kind of to be expected, right? Like, a team that's down 1-0 in a best of seven series, especially in the NHL, comes out way harder and looking for opportunities to score. I mean, this is a team that only had 14 shots on goal in game one, and you already know that Tocchet was not going to let that happen in game two.
Absolutely. And I think you hit it right on the head there. You know, Arizona down 1-0 in the series. A major underdog coming in. This was the game that they had to come out absolutely swinging. And the Avs did a good job of weathering the storm and getting through it. I thought maybe at parts of the very beginning of the game, the Avalanche looked like they maybe got a little bit cocky, I guess is the best word for it. And I think this has been a theme with all three of the the three teams that I consider to be like massive favorites in their series. So that's Vegas, Colorado, and Philly. Vegas in particular went up 2-0 on Chicago yesterday and let them back in the game for what I thought were similar reasons. They felt like they were so much better that they got a little bit cocky and maybe let the other team back into the game because of that. And I think maybe we saw a little bit of that in the first period from the Avs, and they corrected quickly once they realized, oh, Arizona's not going to give us this series. We might be the better team, but we're still going to have to fight for it.
Yeah, I mean, they made the playoffs for a reason now. I mean, I feel like Darcy Kemper wasn't as good as he was in game one, and that was maybe the saving grace
Yes.
of the Avs today. Like, if Kemper ended up playing like he did in game one tonight, or I guess this afternoon, then I think Arizona definitely would have taken that game. But either way, like you said, Billy, weathered the storm, and these are very important games to win. I mean, although I still would have liked our chances if we went down, or if they tied the series 1-1. A 2-0 series lead is a real strangle grip
Yeah,
there.
I mean, a team with a 2-0 lead in the series wins about 86% of the time. A team with a 1-1 tie wins 50% of the time. So, I mean, right there,
Yeah.
that's a massive boost. When you are the top seed, you don't want to let the other team make it a series because we saw it with the Avalanche last year. Went down 1-0. Calgary looked like, I mean, on the scoreboard, Calgary looked like the far better team. I'm watching that game one. We knew that it was actually very close, but then Calgary let the Avs back in game two, and the Avs never looked back. And we don't want to be on the other end of that. We want to when we get the lead in the series, we want to step on the throat. We want to put them down as quick as we can. We don't want to allow them to get confident and start to think, hey, maybe we have this.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I was actually thinking in like the third period, oh, like, is this kind of reminiscent of last year's Avalanche series against Calgary? How Calgary comes out and wins game one, and then like the Avs come back and win game two, and then just continue to roll. So that was kind of something that was crossing my mind. Not to be too pessimistic, but it was definitely something that I was thinking about. But then, like, Berkey's goal made all those feelings kind of go away pretty quick. Because I mean, I just think the Avs are so much of a better hockey team than Arizona. I don't really know in using that series from last year if that's like kind of the case, like because I think Avalanche were still the better team in that series, but um, it's still something that could cross your mind. Like I mean, they're NHL teams are always trying to play that underdog story.
Exactly, and I mean, even the fans, we like to root a little bit for the underdog, and it's harder to play. I mean, I don't know if it's harder. It's different to play as the favorite because you have the expectations on you. Last year, the Avs had some expectations for themselves, but from the outside looking in, there weren't the same expectations. And I think that it's good to see that they are still able to get it done with expectations on them.
Yep. And I mean, I just think that's kind of a testament to the coaching staff and the leaders on this team. They're not going to really let them like get too far ahead of themselves, get too cocky. I mean, you made the point, Billy. It's like there could have been some sort of like cockiness feelings or feeling like, oh, like these guys are bad. We just outshot them 40-14. The only reason that it was a 3-0 game is because Kemper kept them in there. But you saw in the first period that Arizona was not just going to like wilt away and let them win this game. Like there's still another NHL hockey team on the other side of the ice, and they're going to do whatever they can to win the series. And so I just think the rebound in the third period really is a testament to the coaching staff and the leadership on this team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the way Bednar coached again. On the national broadcast, they kept talking about it. I'm like, that's interesting. They don't typically talk that much about coaching, but I mean, Bednar, we've said it on every podcast, so I don't want to go too deep into it again, but he's an underrated coach, and he's an asset in the playoffs. But let's talk a little bit about some of these goals. McKinnon came out flying immediately and buried one right in the first period, in the first 5 minutes of the game. A nice little sniper under Kemper's glove, and I think that set the tone to an extent for really, it didn't let Kemper get hot, and I think that was massive. A real nice shot from McKinnon, and
Yeah.
it's big to have him firing.
Yeah. If McKinnon can start to be Kemper's kryptonite early in the games, then you're gonna love to see the chances of the remaining games because like I wasn't able to watch that live, but I did watch the highlight. It was a little bit of a scramble play in the zone, and then it got out, and then McKinnon just got fed, and then that's like his typical shot right there. That's McKinnon's office. Whenever McKinnon has a chance at that spot of the ice, then you always got to love the chances of that. And really, like you didn't even he kind of made it look easy. He just kind of threw a puck like far side and just like made it go in. So something you love to see from a superstar player. I thought McKinnon's game just all around. I mean, at least from what I could have or what I saw, I thought he was buzzing and was really on a mission tonight.
Yeah, McKinnon was. I mean, he was skating. He's always fast, but he was real fast. He was flying through defenders. There were a couple times where I was like, all right, maybe slow it down a little bit when he's trying to go in 1-on-4 and maybe cut that one back a little bit, but it's sometimes it's the give and take, when you have McKinnon flying with that, you're willing to accept that maybe sometimes he's gonna make not the smartest play, but he made a lot of great plays and made some special things happen. And if you get McKinnon rolling like he was today, look out the rest of the NHL, because this year to me is McKinnon's chance. I think in Colorado we all kind of agree that McKinnon is that number 2 guy in the league, but outside of Colorado, around the league, I think there are a lot of people that like to say, oh, McKinnon is just in that second tier with Kucherov and Crosby and Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
And I think this year is McKinnon's chance to show the rest of the league, hey, there's no conversation about who the other guy is. It's Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. And we said it before, like McKinnon thrives in big games. Like he did it in juniors, did it like early in his career in the Av sweater, and I think that's just something that like truly separates the good from the great. Like championships and playoff performances are really something to show like how special a player is. And McKinnon now like just starting to get in these prime years of Avalanche contention. This is his chance to like show the rest of the NHL that he's not just a Kucherov, or he's not just like, you know, it's not necessarily a
Yeah,
knock on Kucherov,
yeah, I know what you
but
mean.
like yeah, but just that he's literally in that very next elite like superstar tier, right below Connor
I
McDavid.
think he wants to prove that he is closer to McDavid than he is to Kucherov.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good way to look at it. And I think that that Crosby's kind of career is getting to the tail end, and the Penguins don't really look as dominant as they did a few years ago. This is kind of McKinnon's chance to like just elevate him into like that national media perspective of being like the second greatest player in the world, and really like one of the all-time greats of our generation. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that he will prove that, and I think there's going to be a lot of people around the league saying, "Oh, we might have slept a little." I mean, it's not like they're sleeping on McKinnon. Everyone knows he's a top 5 player, but
yeah.
they're like, maybe he's even better than we realize. So immediately after that goal, I mean, not immediately, later in the period, the Coyotes get a goal that was fairly fluky. It was Grubauer made a great initial save to get over and block the initial shot from Clayton Keller. It trickles past him. Nemesnikov is able to dig it out, make a great defensive play so that Stepan can't get to it. And when he digs it out, he digs it into Girard's stick, which it bounces off of and into the net. So, I mean, it's a good play by Arizona to just drive the traffic, and when you do that, good things happen. It's frustrating to watch. Girard, it wasn't Girard's fault. Like, you know, it went off his stick, but like, I mean, what was he gonna do? He tried to get it out. Nemesnikov also tried to get it out. Got a little tangled and bounced in, but that could have been a big momentum shifter. Just, you know, the Coyotes. After you score, you silence them a little bit, but after that one, it becomes, hey, we're back in this. We do have a chance to steal this game. What did I mean? The Avs after that played fairly well to not let the Coyotes get the momentum. How big was that to you?
Ooh, I think that's really big because I mean hockey's a game of momentums. Like the saying, or momentum swings. The saying is like 2 goal lead is the worst lead to have in hockey because I mean really like if the other team gets those 2 goals to tie it up, then holy crap, then they're on a mission to win that game. Like we've seen it in the playoffs, we've seen it countless times in just NHL games in the past. It's when it gets a one when it gets tied up 1-0 or 1-1, or really just tied up in general. It is very important to go out and get that next goal. So I love that they were able to do that, and I think this is just a team that doesn't really get too nervous. They don't really like get down on each other, and they're comfortable playing with a lead, a tie, or coming from behind. So
Yeah, and I think honestly, who embodies that perfectly is Cale Makar. Never too high, never too low. Cale Makar is the most expressionless player in the NHL, and
probably
it's
I would argue that maybe Connor McDavid.
I don't know. Connor McDavid celebrates when he scores. Cale
Yeah,
Makar is just
but
like pumps his fist, and then it's cold, ice cold Cale Makar.
yeah, that's very true. But I mean, if you've watched any of McDavid's interviews, it's like, holy crap, does this
Yeah,
dude have a personality?
yeah, but
But
I don't know. I guess like I mean on the ice a little bit. I feel like McDavid shows a little bit more, but I mean I feel like we're on the same page in that that's what
yeah,
the Avalanche are. When they can ride the momentum when they're up, but they don't let themselves get so high that they forget about defense or things like that. And when they're
mhm.
low, after they've just been scored on, the Avs always push back. With the Avs with a 1-0 lead, it might as well be a tie game because you know that they're going to make that push.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think all these qualities that we're kind of describing right now are qualities of true like championship contending teams. Great leadership, great coaching, and teams that just don't get too down on themselves or get too flustered when things aren't going particularly right. Like this game was not the best Avalanche we've seen all year, but they just find a way to get it done, find a way to get the series 2-0, and we're really in the driver's seat now. So um, it's looking promising right now. Some of the other series around the league right now are looking a little bit interesting, and we could probably get to that. But I just like that the Avs were able to go up 2-0, just because like you could see anything happen in the NHL.
Yeah, I mean the other favorites around the league, I think, is what you're kind of hitting at, have not necessarily been able to do that. If you look at just looking at the 1 and the 2 seeds, Vegas also was able to take care of it. Tampa and Philly out east. I mean, the Philly game's still going on, but things aren't looking great for them at the moment. They're looking like they're going to let Montreal back into that series. Tampa Bay came out with that massive 5 overtime win, but then in the next game they kind of let Columbus back in the series. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even going down to some of the other top seeds, Boston let Carolina back in, and St. Louis just let Vancouver get the jump on them outright.
Yep. So I think the Avs and the Knights series are the only series right now that are 2-0. I mean, pending some other games to happen, but still. I mean, it's a very evenly matched playoff, like, kind of series or anything that we're kind of seeing right now. But I think in this kind of unprecedented times, without like all the fans, without like real home ice advantage on a neutral site, it's important to ride the momentum that you're able to like gather. And like you said, Billy, getting that second goal in tonight's game is just kind of just a really big kick in the balls for Arizona, just because like you said, they have the momentum, and then the Avalanche just score a goal to stop that momentum. So
let's talk about that Jost goal then. And I love Landy looks like he's playing around a little there, but I love how Jost got into the lineup and started out average. I wouldn't say Jost started out hot. I wouldn't say he started out cold, but that was the turning point, that goal for him. Tips a nice shot from the point by Makar. Perfect tip by Jost, right between the glove and the pad. I mean, when you're tipping those, you're not thinking too much about your placement because, I mean, let's be honest, you can't really control your placement all that well. But he did the best he could to get it to a spot Kemper couldn't get it. Perfect shot, perfect tip. That's what you love to see. And after that, Jost was rolling. I mean, Jost got the 2-on-1 with JT Com for a little bit right after that. He was generating chances. And, I mean, you love to see a guy get his shot in the lineup and say, I am going to grab onto it, and I'm going to make it very, very difficult for Bednar to sit me next game.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like, he's kind of a guy that I see as having a chip on his shoulder. Like, the start of his NHL career has not been particularly what he maybe, like, would have expected it to be, especially being a 10th overall pick. That comes with pretty high expectations. And so he's still kind of a guy that's trying to figure out his role in the NHL. I do think that he's going to be an NHLer for a very long time, whether or not it's with the Avs and whether or not it's just going to be like a consistent third, fourth line, or maybe even like scratch player. So he's coming into games after he gets scratched, and we've seen this before, after he gets hurt with like a chip on his shoulder, and he just has an extra like step to his game. In the third period, I thought he was absolutely flying around out there. I know, Billy, I've told you before, like, I don't know if I've ever seen Tyson Jost absolutely burn someone wide. He did that. He did that a couple of times, and was just being strong on the puck, like down deep and just generating a bunch of chances. So you absolutely love to see that, and I hope he can keep it up because I think he's a guy that's really respected around the locker room and really liked. And I know he's a big fan favorite, so it'll be good to see him if he can keep it up.
Yeah, I love that. And we do have to talk a little bit. I mean, while we're on the subject of Jost, I do believe he probably gets in the next game, mostly because it looks like Nemesnikov might be out.
Yeah. And
left after getting run over by McKinnon a little bit. Just McKinnon driving, Nemesnikov couldn't quite get out of the way. That is, I don't like that injury. That's kind of a big hit. I gotta hope that it's not going to be particularly long term. What do we lose when we lose Nemesnikov?
I mean, like I've said this before, I think Joe Sakic has a whole mastermind behind his plan, And there's a reason that he didn't go out and like really chase one of the bigger, like trade pieces. But he's just looking for high character guys and guys that really just fit in well with the lineup. Messikov brings like a bunch of experience, especially playing on the top line in Tampa. We've already seen him playing on the top line in Colorado. And he brings a bunch of speed, which is really consistent with what the Avs like have and what Sakic has built over time. And just a high IQ player, high IQ, or like high quality, like personality guy. So I think it could be a pretty big hit, but I think the Avs are still going to be able to rebound from that injury, and maybe we'll see the return of the three-headed monster more consistently now with that top line. So
Yeah, and the three-headed
I
monster
know we
looked
did
real
tonight.
good today. I mean, McKinnon in particular, we have talked about already, was all over the place. And like we said, maybe a couple plays where it weren't the smartest because he was driving so hard, but there were a couple times when they would have shifts. They had some down shifts too, but they had a couple shifts where they absolutely took over the game. And whether or not they scored on some of those, they were driving play, they were controlling play in the zone, and they were getting chances.
hmm Yeah, I loved what I saw from the first line. Um, and really, like in the third period, I didn't really hate anyone's game. Like I thought the second line was rolling. Kadri had another really nice game. Um, Throwing a puck just on the net, bounces off of a Coyotes player's skate and goes right to Berkey. That's just proving
Yeah.
why there's really not a bad shot in the NHL. Like anything can happen. We've said it before. The NHL is the most luck-based sport. Not necessarily that the players are not skillful. It's just that really like lucky bounces happen all the time. It is truly a game based off of luck. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I was seeing from Kaji there. I don't really know. I kind of got off a tangent, but I was definitely liking the line combos. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely we'll touch a little bit more on that third goal. But hockey is absolutely a game that requires quite a bit of luck, which is why it's so hard to win a Stanley Cup, and which is why you see so many this it's why this series is scary a little bit, because you see so
hmm
many upsets in hockey because being better is not always enough. But before we
Yeah.
get into that third goal, let's talk a little bit about Arizona's second goal. And this one, I don't know if you got to see the replay of it, but it was a little
No,
bit
didn't.
frustrating. There should have been an interference call on Cole. It was, I believe, Vinny Hinostroza was the guy who did it. Blew Cole up without neither of them had the puck, which allowed who Grabner, which allowed Grabner to come into the slot all by himself and bury a goal right in the top corner over Grubauer. Grubauer maybe could have saved it, but I would not at all put that on him. Should have been a penalty, but it wasn't, and that's the case sometimes. Another one where this is the Avs not letting it get in their head. You know, sometimes,
hmm
especially when it's a call that the refs maybe should have stopped that play. When that happens, sometimes it gets very, very frustrating, and you can see the momentum swing one way or the other. The Avs didn't let that happen, and were able, especially at the tail end of the period, were able to make sure that we got into the intermission still tied at 2.
Yeah. And that's huge. I wasn't able to see that. I was definitely like score watching and getting updates from you, Billy, and Karim. Um, and just some of the updates that I was hearing didn't necessarily make me feel super comfortable. But at least I know there was some power play opportunities at the end of the second, or for Arizona at the end of the second and the beginning of the third, and those are some really big kills, especially in a 2-2 game in the Stanley Cup playoffs, going into the third period. Really looking for momentum shifters, and I think some of those kills could have definitely helped them there, especially if the refs, like, you can't really let the refs dictate momentum. You got to kind of just dictate the momentum from like the players and all that. And refs, we've seen it before. Bad calls, like bad no calls can really shift the momentum of a game. So it's good that we rebounded from that, and just, yeah,
Yeah.
happy to see.
And in the third period, I think it wasn't as dominant as game one, but I felt like the Avs controlled the third more than or more than Arizona did. And that was big, which led to a little bit of a lucky goal. Did this one, I don't know, it reminded me a little bit of the goal Arizona scored in their first series that bounced off Duchesne, where it was just a
Yeah,
shot that went nowhere near where it was actually headed because of a
yeah.
fluky bounce and landed right on Burakovsky's tape where he put it in.
I mean, that's literally how I was just saying. It's like there's no such thing as a bad shot in the NHL. There's just a bunch of players standing around and like a little tiny puck that can just careen off really anything. And we saw that happen go off of Arizona's skate, and Berkey was just sitting right there, just absolutely like looked like a perfect pass, even though it was supposed to be a shot on net. And like, yeah, it literally, yeah, I don't know. There's just no bad shots in the NHL. That's what I'll continue to hammer away
I
on.
mean, when you're controlling the game and you're shooting the puck, good things eventually happen. And sometimes the hockey gods are just leaning your way that day. So that's what happened. That ended up being the game-winning goal, and the Avs right at that moment, 2.5 minutes roughly left in the game, and they just turtled, and they said they didn't. It wasn't like we're just gonna stand in the zone, but they do what good teams do when they're up 1-0 with 2 minutes left. They locked it down. They said, "We're not trying breakouts. We're flipping the puck out of the zone, and we're gonna make you come at us. We're gonna make you come through five guys." And Arizona not able to get through five guys. There were scary moments, really, throughout the third period. Couple of posts, couple of pucks that looked like they could have, a couple of rebounds that looked like they could have been buried, but the Avs did a
Yeah.
good job of clearing everything out and not letting Arizona back into the game.
Yeah, I would kind of say that Arizona had a little bit more high danger chances than
I
the
think so.
Avs, but I do think that the Avs controlled the pace of play and definitely controlled possession time and even shots. Like they were down. I think it was 22, 29 shots at the end of the second, and they were able to definitely put some more pucks on Kemper, which is good. Um, and really, like the Avs had a couple of very, very good chances at that empty net, and it was starting to scare me once some of those weren't going in.
Miko.
Rantanen pretty much had Rantanen had like an entire net open to him, and he just missed it, and then gets like tripped up behind the net. And Johnson's puck, a rolling puck, just totally did not curve the right way. It looked like it was going to, but I mean, either way, we got that, we got the win. But if Miko's miss on the empty net would have came back and haunted us, that would have been pretty disappointing.
I bet the under 5.5 goals in the game. So I was in a really weird position where I was like, I was excited for Miko to score, and then also excited that he didn't score. But
Yeah,
that was a fun one. It was it's always intense to watch the end of those games, the end of any 1 goal game, especially in the playoffs. But glad that the boys were able to get it done. Let's talk. You touched on Arizona had quite a few high danger chances, and I did like that Grubauer was able to keep them out of the net. And I thought Grubauer
hmm,
played well today. It wasn't like we didn't watch Grubauer today and think, oh, that's Vasilevsky in the net or anything like that, or that's Carey Price, but
yeah,
he played very well. There was the 1 goal, like I said earlier, that I think maybe he could have got his glove up a little higher, but it also wasn't on him completely. It's hard when there's bodies laying in front of you. So
yeah.
I thought Grubauer played very well. And Marshall, off the air, you actually asked me, so who do you think gets the start tomorrow? Let's talk a little bit about that because you're headed into the back-to-back. You trust Frankie. I think the team trusts Frankie.
Yeah,
I think you got to go with Frankie. And Grubauer played well, and absolutely will get game 4 pending, unless there's like some kind of 70 save shutout by Frankie or something like that. But
yeah.
but you have two goalies, and you want to use every advantage that you possibly can, and that means starting
Yeah.
Frankie in Game 3 to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, Grubauer was just giving the Avs a chance to win in all of these games, and that's kind of all you could ask from a goaltender. But Frankie's kind of done the same thing all year for us. So I think just in terms of really like giving the Avs an advantage tomorrow, bringing in like a fresh Frankie is going to be pretty important for us. So I definitely agree that Frankie's going to get the start, and I also agree that Grubauer is going to be the starter for the remainder of the playoffs, barring another
Yeah,
back-to-back. So it's just kind of an interesting situation. Normally, in prior years in the playoffs, there's not really a back-to-back. So, but looking at the history of the regular season on back-to-backs, more likely than not, the second string goaltender is going to get the start on the second night. So I don't think that's going to change here. There's a reason they do that in the regular season, and I think there's a reason that they'll do that tomorrow.
absolutely. And so definitely for Colorado, definitely Colorado, you get the fresh goalie in, give Gruby 2 days off. Arizona's a little bit of a different conversation, especially when because their team relies so heavily on Darcy Kemper to kind of drive that bus for them.
Yeah.
But also they have Antti Ranta, who is a very, very good goalie in his own right. Who do you think we see in net for Arizona tomorrow?
I'm thinking Antiranta, actually. Although Kemper does, literally he is their team, the backbone of their team. We saw what happened to their record after he went out in the regular season. But like you said, Billy, Antiranta is a very, very, very good second string goalie. Arguably, they have a top three goalie tandem in the entire league. And even though these games are absolutely not on Kemper, there could just be some sort of goaltending spark that happens out of Ranta tomorrow that kind of starts a little bit of a momentum shift for Arizona.
Yeah, I
We've seen it happen before. We've seen it happen before with teams that are down 2-0, not necessarily because of their goaltenders, just getting a little bit of a new look on the back end, and for their goaltenders kind of helps spark a little bit of a different team, I
Yeah,
think.
I'm gonna have to agree with you on that one. I think it's a tougher call, but I think Arizona does also go with Ranta. They're down 2-0 in the series at this point. It's kind of like, what do you have to lose? Either Ranta plays well and steals the game, or he doesn't, and you get 2 days rest for Kemper going into Game 4 to try and bail yourselves out of a 3-0 series. So I think it's a little bit of a risk, but it's one you have to take if you're Arizona and try to get that win.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like we were talking about it, Billy, like what in the last episode, like what's going to happen in these back to backs. But like I think that the Avs are in a comfortable position right now to let Frankie just at least try out a game. So I don't necessarily think that Frankie's going to like come out and just put on an absolute show, like a Carey Price type show, and get a 40-50 save shutout. But I do think that he will come out tomorrow and prove that if the Avs need him further down the line, then he's the goalie
Yeah,
for
I
us.
think
So
so. And I believe there's a back to back in each series, so I do think we'll see more of Frankie, which I think is good. So let's talk moving forward into the rest of this series, particularly with the Nemesnikov injury now. Donskoy out injured today. It's difficult to predict because we have no idea when these guys are back. They could be out 3 months or they could be out 3 days, and we will not know anything differently. I mean, sometimes you can get an
yeah.
impression from how a coach talks, but really nothing concrete. So, what if they're both out Game 3? Who's the next man up for you? For me, I want Logan O'Connor, but I don't know that the Avs would.
How about Shane Bowers?
I, I would love Shane Bowers. I know the Avs won't do that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, I would say LOC or maybe like a Magna type
TJ
guy.
Tynan, something like
But
that.
yeah, Tynan. But yeah, well, actually, Billy, maybe they do give Bowers a shot just because they're up to nothing. Maybe like see what he can do. Like I would love that, but at the same time, Bednar is looking for experience right now and not trying to turn the series into a 2-1 series.
Yeah.
Like a 2-0 series is a lot different than a 2-1 series, and a 3-0 series is obviously a lot bigger or different than a 2-1 series.
Yeah.
So
I think I don't know. In the playoffs, if you're in the regular season and you're like, we pretty much clinched our seed, then you can start mixing in rookies. In the playoffs, I don't think you're ever comfortable enough to say we will risk putting in Bowers. And I don't think it's that much of a risk. I trust Bowers, but my job's not
yeah,
on the line. So that's
I mean, either way, this forward that's kind of a next man up type guy. I don't really see him playing too many
yeah,
minutes,
I agree.
anyways. So I don't know. It could. And so, are they going to end up breaking up that fourth line then?
I don't think so.
Because
I think you leave them
I don't think so
together, and I
either.
think you rotate. So you double shift McKinnon or you double shift a winger, and then
Yeah,
you give every other shift with the third line you put LOC in if it's LOC or whoever it
yeah,
is.
yeah. I would agree. I think that's what we're going to be seeing. But yeah, either way, I do like the depth that we have. I mean, we've seen it, but these injuries just can't start piling up like this. That's something that we saw in the regular season, and really do not want it to start happening now.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky in that it hasn't been McKinnon and it hasn't been Rantanen, and we're also I mean two
Yeah,
injuries this far in isn't like we've been devastated. We've been luckier now than we have been in the regular season, but it's definitely something we want to be aware of because if they start piling up, we are going to be in more trouble. We've had it better than most, though I would say so far.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's just we had a pretty clean slate up until I mean, really today. Like I didn't know about Donskoy until today, and all of a sudden we have two injuries. So definitely don't. We want to stop that curve. We want to flatten that like right
Flatten
away,
the
and
curve.
yeah, and hopefully, like you were saying, both of those injuries are just like short term kind of stingers, and hopefully we can see them back in the lineup here soon.
Yeah, and I think that we do. I mean, they both to me. I didn't see how Donskoy got hurt. I didn't know he was hurt. Just like you said, I don't think anyone knew he was hurt until this morning, and then we just found out. Oh, Jost is going to be in the lineup for him. So
Yeah,
I don't know about that one. The Nemesnikov one to me did not look like a long term injury. It looked like maybe he got a weird Charlie horse, and those ones sometimes as a player, you don't take yourself out because you're so injured that you can't play. You take yourself out because you're so injured that you can't play well. You know that I'm gonna be.
yeah,
Yes, I could physically go out there and I could skate, but I would be a liability. And I think it looked a little bit like maybe Nemesnikov will be back in a game or two.
yeah. I really hope so. Hopefully it's just a stinger. But like I said, Billy, I loved what Jost looked like today. Really, I mean, he's proven that like he could be a valuable asset for us, and we've seen it in the playoffs before from him, just like coming out and just playing super well. So
Yep, and I love Hootie Tootie in the chat here while we're recording this live on YouTube. That is a classic playoff game. That's what happens in game two. The underdog that's down throws everything they can at us, and I agree. I think that is a momentum shifter for tomorrow. It's very difficult for Arizona after they just did everything they could to get this win to now come out tomorrow and say
yeah,
we just threw everything we had and we lost. So what do we do now? What more can we do?
yeah. And like I think that this just gives the Avs more confidence. We haven't necessarily seen like an absolutely offensive explosion from the Avs yet, and I do think that's coming here in this series. Hopefully tomorrow or on Monday. So it's going to happen. We haven't seen that 4 point game from McKinnon, and just truly a game that like proves that we're like the much better team. Although like game one we did outshoot them and it was a 3-0 win, but on the scoreboard I'd like to see a 5-0 win or 5-1 win or something like that.
Yeah, wait till I don't know that I think that it's going to be tough to get that against Arizona. They're just the way they play. It's hard. They don't win a lot of games, but they don't get blown out either. So I'd compare them even a little bit to Dallas in that regard. I don't know that we get a massive blowout win, but I do think we have a win where we are dominating the play. One that anyone who watches the game knows it's a blowout, but maybe it doesn't show up as a blowout on the scoreboard, similar to game
I
one.
mean, I feel like game one's kind of like that. But I'm just saying, me personally, I'd like to see a
Hey, I'd love
blowout.
to see that.
Just a bunch of goals, just an avalanche of goals.
Perfect. Avalanche of goals. And that is where
Yeah.
we'll end this one, because that's a perfect place to end it. I mean, unless, Marshall, do you have any other things that you want to touch on before we hop out of here for today?
Nope, not really. I'm liking our position right now. I mean, some of the series out east, like we touched on a little bit earlier, are looking a bit scary. I know Tampa doesn't necessarily love the position that they're in right now, and Philly definitely does not like the way that this game is going. So
Man, that used to
I love that the
gauntlet.
Avs are able to pull it out, and it's looking more and more like it's just a two team race out west.
Yeah. I mean,
So
Marshall, we talked about it last night. The East is an absolute gauntlet. I think there are two, maybe three, depending on if St. Louis can get it together, teams that can make a run in the West. I think there are seven of them in the East, and it's
yep.
very, 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 very scary to be one of those other teams. But we'll have to talk a little bit about that on our sports pod. So viewers, check out our sports pod as well. I know we've got a couple people left in our live chat, so go ahead and hit that like button while you're still here. And for everyone listening, whether that's live or after this is posted, thank you, and we will see you in our next episode.
Hey, Alex, it was a good one. All right, everyone. See you, boys.